Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 1366. Set up. Retracting his gaze, Klein cast his gaze at the beyonder characteristic that Polly Durlow's body had produced. It was formed from thin mist, seemingly an unreal, grayish-white brain from a dream. He believed that the Garden of Eden was the safest place, so he placed his true body here. All activities in the outside world are just as many different identities. Who would have known that Hermes, who was supposed to be a defensive barrier, had abandoned this place? If a real angel were guarding the Garden of Eden and had fully utilized the uniqueness of this mind city, I wouldn't be able to so easily deceive the rules and successfully infiltrate it. As Klein thought to himself, he randomly made a wish to accelerate the beyonder characteristics formation and condensation. Pa! He snapped his fingers and fulfilled his wish. Following that, he picked up the Dreamweaver beyonder characteristic and something that could be used as the supplementary material. He took off the pride mask on his face and left the Garden of Eden. As he left, the remaining parts of the city collapsed and merged into the boundless sea of collective subconscious. From that point onward, the legend of the Garden of Eden would emerge in many dreams, eventually drawn out by some artists, or fabricated into widespread stories. And all of the stories would come to a consensus. The Garden of Eden was eventually destroyed. Returning to the Hall family manor's veranda, Klein looked at Miss Justice, who had already composed herself, and handed over the Dreamweaver beyonder characteristics, the corresponding ingredients, and the potion formula he had seen from the second blasphemy slate. Before Audrey could say anything, he said in a deep voice, "You can go back on your word before officially advancing." Audrey received Mr. World's gift and nodded silently, indicating that she would seriously consider it. Wearing the exquisite straw hat, she watched Gairman Sparrow turn around and walk to the edge of the veranda, disappearing step by step. After removing his traces and concealing the clues, Klein cleverly used grafting and the uniqueness of Sapphira Castle to return to Backland, appearing in front of Judgment Zio, who was on holiday. The MI9 colonel, who was munching on an apple, immediately put down the food in her hands. As she wiped her mouth with a tissue, she stood up. What's the matter?" She cautiously didn't address him as Mr. World, nor did she call him Gairman Sparrow. Klein nodded slightly and said, "Mr. Fool got me to ask you if you wish to obtain the potion formula, beyonder characteristic, and supplementary ingredients for sequence for imperative mage?" Zio frowned slightly, not feeling any joy. She asked solemnly, "Then what's the price?" Klein nodded approvingly. "The apocalypse is coming. Many changes are beginning to happen, and Mr. Fool has prophesied some matters. When the time comes, it's very likely that he will enter a period of slumber again. And as his left-hand man, I'm unable to escape the same fate. The price you need to pay is that when such a situation really appears, follow the revelation left behind by Mr. Fool, doing something that might be dangerous or simple. It might be an attempt that will take a long while, or just a short moment, so as to awaken Mr. Fool." As a king of angel seer, the owner of Sapphira Castle, Klein had long been able to make certain levels of prophecies. Recently, he had seen some blurry visions and inspiration. Therefore, without any solid plan, he consciously started putting in place various arrangements. "Right now, I'm a real charlatan," he lampooned himself in thought. Before Zio could speak, he added, "You can choose to decline. You are not the only person chosen." Zio believed that Mr. World wouldn't use sarcasm when it came to such matters. She didn't immediately answer, as she seriously considered the matter. Without the pending apocalypse, she felt that she would have rejected the offer. Although a demigod was powerful and terrifying, being able to rule a battlefield and control the fates of others, and was a creature that truly possessed godhood, becoming a Sequence 4 wasn't a matter that was urgent for her. As a Sequence 5 disciplinary paladin, she was able to ensure that she completed most of the missions as a colonel of MI9, with her own capabilities. With her salary and additional income, she could maintain a very decent life for her family. Even if she were to encounter danger, she could obtain sufficient aid from the official factions. Furthermore, she could make preparations by getting Lamino's travels in advance, and asked her friend Furs to protect her in secret. In addition, she had investigated the cause of her father's death and fulfilled her wish to restore his honor. Therefore, no matter what, she didn't have to pay the huge price to become a sequence for Beyonder. Besides, it wasn't impossible for her to get an opportunity from MI9. Of course, Zio had no idea how much longer until this would happen in the future. Be it Mr. Fool's warning, or the various prophecies I deliberately gathered using my job, it clearly or vaguely points out that the apocalypse is coming. There are only 16 years left. Zio subconsciously turned her body to look at the second floor. Under my present living conditions, Mom will definitely be able to live for another 16 years. At that time, she wouldn't be too old. Furthermore, Mr. Moon has provided all kinds of medicine to maintain her health. 16 years later, Rio will be a young man in his prime, at the peak of his career. Furs might already become a Sequence 3 Beyonder, and in order to deal with the apocalypse and seek hope, she would be busy running around, but I wouldn't be of much help. Zio slowly retracted her gaze as she fell silent. Then, she looked at the World Gehrman Sparrow and nodded solemnly. Okay. You can set up a ritual at any time and make a wish to Mr. Fool. He will fulfill your wish. Klein didn't waste any time and gave a simple explanation. His imperative Mage Beyonder characteristic and potion formula were all obtained from the New Moon City's sacrifice. Of course, he had also bestowed his believers with the sealed artifact, General of the Pupilless Eye, in exchange. After Zio made her decision, she stopped worrying about the matter and said, Wendell apparently went to Utopia, but strangely, he returned that very night and didn't go to court to testify. That makes him puzzled and worried. Tell him that there's no need to worry about this matter anymore. All the people of Utopia were buried in a natural disaster. With that said, Klein turned and walked into the spirit world. In the outskirts of Backlund East Borough, in a cemetery. Klein silently looked at the niches filled with urns of ashes and didn't look away for a long time. After a while, he slowly walked under a tree's shade. He took out the historical projection of the adventurer's harmonica and blew it. With 4 blonde, red-dyed heads and dressed in a dark and complicated long dress, Rionette Tynker immediately walked out of the void. Without waiting for Miss Messenger to speak, Klein asked, The various churches are preparing to besiege the Rose School of Thought and plan on joining forces with you. Is there anything I can help you with? He had learned of the matter from Leonard and Emlyn. Rionette Tynker's 4 blonde, red-eyed heads said, There's nothing for now. Talk after locking on target. That is to say that, with the interference in divination and prophecies, and the protection from outer deities like the Mother Tree of Desire, Primordial Moon, as well as kings of angels like the Chained God, the Rose School of Thought demigods aren't that easy to find. They need a certain amount of time to employ various strategies? That's right. Even the Rhodes wouldn't dare spy on them under such circumstances. Perhaps I can summon its historical void projection. Klein thought for a moment and said, If there are items directly related to them, using them as a medium I can lock onto the corresponding target. When the time came, he could use Sapphira Castle's power to penetrate the shield. All right. Rionette Tynker's 4 beautiful heads bobbed up and down at the same time. With nothing left to discuss, he planned on letting Miss Messenger return. He had originally intended to jokingly ask, Do I need to pay for the summoning this time? His spiritual perception suddenly stirred as he fell silent. A few seconds later, he took out a gold coin from Sapphira Castle. This was one of the 5 gold coins that had been tainted by Sapphira Castle's aura. The payment this time. Klein handed over the gold coin with a smile. No need this time. After Rionette Tynker's 2 blonde, red-eyed heads said that, the remaining 2 didn't say anything. She had powerful spiritual perception capabilities, and appeared as though she had sensed something. In the next second, one of the 2 blonde, red-eyed heads that didn't open its mouth rose up and bit the gold coin at Klein's fingertip. All right. Klein retracted his hand and said with a smile. Then, he casually asked, Is Miss Sharon and Merrick still in Backlund? Yes. Miss Messenger informed Klein about her student's address. In a house, Merrick sat at a long table and skillfully played cards with his zombies. Suddenly, Sherlock Moriarty appeared on an empty chair. He put down his hat and took the covered cards from a zombie without any hesitation. Merrick looked up at him. His lips moved, but he didn't open them in the end. He let the zombie in charge of croupier duties continue to hand out the cards. Just like that, Klein joined them. He played a few rounds, winning and losing at times. In the corner, Sharon, who was wearing a black regal dress and a small and delicate bonnet, appeared at some point in time. She held her face with one hand and quietly watched the game. After playing for about 2 hours, Klein stood up and formally bowed to Miss Sharon and Merrick. Then, he chuckled, put on his hat, walked towards the door, and disappeared. Deep in the spirit world, Klein, who had finished a course of 3 treatments, appeared outside Caldero and City.